When a juvenile offends, it is usually handled very differently than when an adult commits a crime, but in some cases, juveniles are tried as adults. In these cases, it usually means the juvenile is 16 or older and must have committed a serious or violent crime like rape or murder. Today, I will talk about why it is detrimental to try juveniles as adults, and why rehabilitation is very important for these kids because incarceration alone can change the course of their lives in a very negative way. This topic is important to me and should be to everyone in America and the Youngstown area because juvenile offenders rely on us, and if we detain them rather than help them, they will continue to commit crimes for the rest of their lives. I will start off with a description of a case given the name the Central Park Jogger. I gathered this information from the article Youth in the Adult Criminal Justice System. In April of 1989, a 29-year-old woman was jogging in Central Park when she was allegedly attacked by 5 teenage boys. She was raped and left unconscious. The boys were later forced to confess to the police and were convicted and served sentences that ranged from 7 to 11 years. The press basically lost their minds over this case and it blew up all over America. They deemed the boys as bloodthirsty teenagers bursting with rage and roaming the streets only to get excitement from violence. They described these young boys as super predators. As a result of this case, almost every state decided to make laws to make it easier to try juveniles as adults. The Violent Juvenile and Repeat Offender Act of 1997 was passed, and people all over America were told to prepare for the new generations of super predators to come. To their surprise, these super predators never did arrive. In fact, crimes committed by juveniles began to decline. An even bigger surprise, the 5 teenage boys that started this giant wave of fear were found innocent in the early 2000s from DNA evidence. They were wrongly convicted, labeled, and thrown into the criminal justice system. They were just boys pressured into confessing to a crime they did not commit, but were made to look like just as bad as some of the worst adult offenders that America had to offer. It is important for everyone to understand why juveniles must be placed in rehabilitation centers and organizations rather than being incarcerated. When we incarcerate them, we run the risk of creating lifelong criminals. As told in the article Youth in the Justice System, every day almost 2,700 children are sent to adult prisons. In these prisons, they are either grouped in with the adult offenders or they are sent to isolation to protect them from harm. When they are grouped in with the adult offenders, they run the risk of being assaulted or sexually abused or even murdered. But when held in isolation, they are alone for very long periods of time and run the risk of depression and deepening any mental issues that they were already dealing with, and even run the risk of suicide. Furthermore, adult jails do not offer an educational system for juvenile offenders. These children will halt their learning and will never be given the chance to grow intellectually. As discussed in PBS's article named Juvenile versus Adult Justice, instead of being incarcerated, juveniles should be sent to rehabilitation programs, and there are plenty to fit the individual's needs. There are educational programs that teach them that there is something else out there and that they can achieve more than a life of crime. There are also drug treatment programs. In these programs, juveniles charged with drug offenses are processed by a different, less intense court, where they must agree to stay clean and attend group meetings where they can receive help. Even after completing treatment, they are looked after for a year or so to ensure that they remain drug-free. Vocational training programs are also very beneficial. In these programs, they are given opportunities to learn a trade or skill that can give them an opportunity at an employment later in life. Counseling programs are also a huge part of rehabilitation. Oftentimes, the children not only have issues within themselves, but with their families. Conflict resolution is addressed, and families are given a chance to heal. These children are our responsibilities, and allowing them to get lost in the criminal justice system without attempting to help is lazy and cruel. When juveniles are thrown into the adult system, if they do make it out alive, they often go back to committing crimes. If we take a second to think about it, if a child is thrown into an adult prison without the chance of really getting to be a kid, they lose their whole life. They know nothing but prison life when they are let out. While being incarcerated, they only have time to learn survival. There is no more going to school, doing homework, hanging out with friends, playing sports, applying for colleges, or dating. There is no ordinary life lessons. There is only surviving, and many of them have to do awful things like commit further crimes in order to do so. They become part of gangs, they steal, they lie, and they cheat. And many Americans will say, well, why would they continue to commit crimes? It is simply because we don't give them any other option. As mentioned in the article Youth in the Justice System, an overview, once released from prisons, people who were incarcerated as juveniles have a very hard time finding employment, joining the military, or even receiving aid to attend college. So they go back to what they know best, which is committing crime. All of us can help these juveniles. The public should invest in programs that work rather than juvenile detentions or simply sending them to adult prisons. When these juveniles are rehabilitated, we will experience less crime, and less crime means less victims. Alex Picchero and Lawrence Steinberg ran a study that proves paying for juveniles to be sent to adult prison is more expensive in tax dollars than it is to simply rehabilitate them. Thank you for listening to my speech, and in closing, I will show you a video of a young man who has been incarcerated in a detention system. He gives a brief interview about his everyday life.
Songs and whatnot, so it's pretty nice.
I've been on segregation for almost 12 months. You're in a room 24/7. That's on B4 side short term. You over there, you come out of your room for a shower and that's it. And let's say you in a room, your window got a screen on it, your door got a screen on it, got a spit shield on it, got a cuff port. They give everything through the cuff port. They don't open your door unless you're going to medical. If you leave B4, you're in full restraints, shackles, handcuffs, sometimes a black box, the belly chain, doing things like that. You can't use the phone on B4. You can't get visits. You can't watch TV. Can't do nothing, read a book. Sometimes that's if you're on admin. Pretty much, I got associates. I associate with people in here. If it came to getting close to each other, I wouldn't do it. I don't trust nobody here except staff. Students will get con you into doing things with them. They'll talk you into hurting people, battering staff. I do everything I do on my own. I don't need nobody to help me.